DSP amplifier installs, um, and you'll see how simple and how quick it is because with our 10-foot T harnesses, it's all plug and play. So
Recording in progress.
so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go over all that information, which is like I said, I have cheated a little bit. I'm inside of a 2022 Toyota Tacoma. This particular vehicle has our 13-inch T-style radio already in it. But what I'm gonna do is as soon as John gets back here and he can switch over as soon as he can switch over the camera angle, we're gonna go on the bench and I'm gonna show you what I mean, and you'll see how quick and how easy it is. So let me walk over to the bench so that you guys could see what we're gonna be doing inside the car. We have this angle here just so you guys could see that I've already ran my T-harness down here underneath the driver's side seat. But let me close this door real quick so I could show you kind of what's going on the bench here. So these T-harnesses, you guys, are available for Ford, for Ram, the two different versions of the Ram, the 14 through 18, the 19 and up. And this particular setup is for non-factory amplified vehicles only. Again, non-factory amplified vehicles only. And this is for that customer or that one person that says it could go in either way. They could like the factory radio, but they want to maybe retune or make their factory speakers sound a little better. Or somebody that says, hey, you know what? I like that new radio, whatever radio that might be that you installed in my car, but I'd like for the speakers to sound a little better. So you come in here and you add the T-harness. So this is a T-harness that's gonna go in between either the factory radio and the factory harnesses, or in between your aftermarket radio and the factory harnesses, right? Because if you're doing any aftermarket radio in these Toyotas, you're using a vehicle-specific harness to add, your aftermarket radio. You're not cutting the factory plugs. So the T-harness is both speaker and power. So another beauty about this is we're not running power from the battery. We're not running a ground to the car. I mean, as streamlined as it gets. I mean, it gets no more streamlined than this. Again, these T-harnesses are available for the, I want to say like 88 to 2016 Toyotas with the older 6 and 10 pin power plugs. This happens to be one of the newer Toyota plugs, the one that was introduced in like the 20 Toyota Tundras that have the different speaker plug, which looks like this right here. So this is your this is your speaker out of your factory radio, speaker out of your aftermarket radio, speaker out of your T-style LinksWell radio. It goes out of the radio into the amplifier to this harness, out of the amplifier, back up to the back of the radio, and out to your speakers. And then we have the power plug to get our constant power and ground. This T-harness does come with a remote turn-on in and a remote turn-on out. You don't have to use these if you are adding one of our DSP amplifiers, because on the amp we have two different selectors. One of them is either 2 ohm or 4 ohm speakers. The other selector is signal sensing or remote turn-on. In this case, we have set this one to 4 ohms and we've set it to signal sensing. So the amp is going to turn on the minute it senses a signal from the factory aftermarket radio or LinksWell T-style radio. I mean, guys, there is room for these kind of applications in the market, especially your Toyotas, which are budget guys. And then again, these T harnesses are available for Ford, for the different Rams, I want to say 88 to like 2023 Toyotas. And then we also have them for the, I mean, I think I said Ford already. But if the customer is using one of our T-style radios, you might notice that on the end that goes to the amplifier, and on the end the T-harness that goes behind the radio, you'll notice that we have the Toslink fiber optic cable already pre-built into the harness. Remember, this harness is 10 feet long. It's long enough to go under any one of your passenger or driver side seats. Um, Now, if they want to use, or if you want to use the fiber optic output of our T-style radios, then you're still plugging in the two harnesses plus the fiber optic output of the LinksWell T-style radio. And then to the amplifier, you're plugging in the main plug plus the fiber optic. Now, in this case, the owner of the Tacoma that we're working on wanted the ability to fade front and back. So we are not going to be using the Toslink out. Remember, the Toslink out of the LinksWell T-style radios is variable, so it's not fixed. The output of the T-style radios is variable, so we're not going to be using it because the customer wants to be able to fade front and back. You won't get that with the Toslink out, but you will get it if you go high level into the amplifier. So again, it's very simple, and it's a little hard to see inside of the back of the dash. So here is the harness that comes with our T-style radio. This goes into our radio. This goes into the CAN box, as you can tell. This is the power plug, and this is the speaker plug. So again, this harness could be your factory radio. This harness could be your aftermarket radio. This harness in this case is the T-style radio. So all you're really doing is you're basically matching up the two plugs for speaker output out of the radio and the power plug to then send power to the amplifier. So remember, you're not running anything from the battery to the amp. You're not running ground to the amplifier. You're not running a remote turn on to the amplifier. I'm telling you, I would exaggerate if I told you that I could be in and out of this truck in 30 minutes, but realistically, you could get in and out in an hour. So that's all you're doing behind the radio. And so the other end of the T-harness is going to plug into the factory connectors. So that's all I've done behind the radio. I just wanted to give you guys a visual because it's a little hard to see it in the truck with the camera angles and everything. The Toslink cable, I basically just wrapped it up and I taped it, and I'm not using it behind the radio. I'm not using it at the amplifier. So again, this is our T-harness. The other end, your remote turn on in and your remote turn on out, I basically taped them, so I'm not using them. The only thing I'm using from this T-harness is this main plug. And again, our amplifiers are designed to accept this plug. So all I did, or all I'm going to be doing underneath the driver's seat is plugging it in. Now, the amp is small enough. How you mount it under the seat is really up to you. I mean, this thing is light, it's small enough, you can Velcro it underneath the seat. You could just let it sit there. I promise you, it's not going anywhere. Or if you want to put a little board and mount it on there and do whatever you need to do, that's really up to you. But ultimately, that's what we're doing in this truck, and that's how easy it is. So I have already ran the cables behind the radio. I have already ran the harness here underneath the driver's side seat. So all I'm going to do right now, and just so you guys could see it, is I'm going to plug it in. I left it long enough so you guys could see it. The LED for the amplifier is here. So the amp is plugged in. The T-harness is plugged into the back of the radio. I'm going to turn on the ignition. So this radio is slow booting because I disconnected the power plug from the back of it. And this would be like the initial turn on, the initial boot up process that you normally don't get to see because of the fast boot function that our Gen 6 radios have. You're seeing it now because this radio, again, we disconnected the power plug. The amplifier is already on. As you could see, we have our green LED here. So the next thing that I would do is I'd simply run the radio just so that I could get some kind of audio through the speakers. And so I can already hear the speakers, and that's just static, right? But all I'm gonna do is show you, I'm gonna disconnect it from here, and there goes our audio. I'm gonna plug it back in, wait for the amp to turn back on, and there's our audio back. So again, there are so many different applications for a setup like this. And so the very next step that I would do here is I would simply then go into the DSP application that the radio has. I would flatten the EQ. I'm gonna save this setting for now and do custom preset 1. And then I'm just gonna go and flatten out the EQ. And then the very next step would be for me to launch the app on the on my phone so that I can then retune the factory speakers. Now we do have a 5-channel option for this particular application too. If you're running the 5-channel and you are going to add a sub, you're going to want to then run your power from the battery. The amplifier does have a battery and ground connector. Now another cool thing is this amplifier has front, rear, and subwoofer outputs. So if you wanted to just run a subwoofer output out of this amplifier to a different amp, we have a 500 watt mono block that you can use as well. You would then, John, show me the here driver's side seat angle. So this amplifier here, let me bring it to the bench. It looks like it's a little bit out of focus. So let me bring it to the bench here. So that was the amp in the car. And so this amplifier has front, rear, and sub out. So if you wanted to run sub out of here into one of our 500 watt mono blocks, or the 1000 watt mono block, or the 1500 watt mono block, then you can do that. Or we also have a 5-channel version of this that'll have your, just like this one has the battery and ground, it'll have your speaker output. So if you're doing the 5-channel, because you're now draining more current from the car, then you do have to run your battery and your ground. Or if you're gonna be basically running the subwoofer out of here into a monoblock, but that would be so that you can then warm up the audio system with a little bit of bass. That would be the route to take. Now with this setup, guys, I mean, we know why the factory speakers don't sound that well. Number one, it's because there's very low power output coming from the factory radio. And the minute you add an aftermarket radio with a little more juice on it, they distort, because now you need to detune them so that you can use a DSP to retune them and make them sound a little better. So you're gonna get more fidelity out of the factory speakers going with this route. Again, if you then want to run a sub out of here, I mean, I would, but in this case, we're just kind of going over how easy it is to install one of our DSP amplifiers using our T-harnesses. I think that, you know, personally, if I had this when I was running the stores, I mean, we would have, you know, done so many of them because it's so streamlined. You know, you could give somebody so many different options with a solution like this. Again, this is for the Toyotas, but we have them available for the Rams, the Ford. There's a couple of Dodge versions too. So again, that's basically what we're gonna be going over here. Let me get back in here, and I'm going to plug the amplifier back in so you could see it once it turns on. So then I'm just gonna run the audio. So as it is, I flatten out the EQ, I have the radio playing. Let me just kind of tune to any station here just so we can get something coming through, right? So as it is, I mean, we're already getting so much more fidelity out of the factory speakers, and that's without necessarily tuning anything, right? So then the only next step, okay, give me 1 second. We're gonna run through the DSP app real quick. John's setting it up. Okay, so I'm on here now. So here we go. So front, yeah, there we go. So it's coming through. So once the app opens up, um, it's gonna look like this. So on the top left, you have your EQ settings. Top right, you have gain and phase. You don't have to mess with phase at this point because you haven't replaced any speakers. But if you replace the speakers and you happen to reverse your polarities and you notice it, you could come in here and reverse the polarity. It's very forgiving, you guys. So you're also going to be able to reverse polarity here on all four of your channels. So then I'm going to go back. So then here, the middle block, the one that says crossover, this is where you're going to limit your front left, front right, rear left, and rear right. Don't pay attention to the subwoofer because there's no sub out on this amplifier. I mean, there's no sub that you're running off of it because this is the same app on the 5 channel. On the 5 channel, you would be, you will be, okay. So cool. I'm glad we're going over the app, Frank, so that way. Um, okay, so once it was connected, it was pretty simple. Yeah, so it's once you're connected, it makes things a lot easier. So because it's the same app for the 4 channel and the same app for the 5 channel, on the 4 channel, you're really only paying attention to your front and rear speakers. If this was the 5 channel, then you would also be looking at the sub out. But that's the crossover. This is where you limit your frequencies in regards to your speakers. So this is where you would tell like your front left where to go from 20 hertz all the way to 20,000 hertz. I'd like to leave this bandwidth wide open only because once if I leave it wide open, then what I like to do is in my EQ settings, I'm gonna have control over I believe is 16. Actually, no, this one's more like 32 bands. So you will have so this is what I like to do. I like to leave my bandwidth wide open from 20 to 20,000 because in my EQ, then this is where I'm gonna come in and this is where I'm gonna retune. So watch this. I'm in the EQ setting right now. I've got front left, front right. Um, so I could do this. So let me press and hold this. So this here, so you see how on the bottom in light font underneath subwoofer it says long press to integrate or separate. So front left. So this is where I'm gonna tell it that with one setting, right, as I adjust my EQ, I'm EQing all my speakers. Otherwise, if you long press and you select to separate them, then what's going to happen is you're tuning your front left, your front right, your rear left, your rear right. You're tuning them independently. But if you press and hold any one of the 4 channels and you tell it to cover all, as you're tuning the EQ, you're going to be basically tuning all 4 channels. And then if this was the 5 channel amplifier, then you would have your subwoofer independently being adjusted through here from 25 hertz all the way to 125 hertz. So again, I mean, this is the DSP app. Time alignment, I don't like to use it here on the app. I like to use it more on the radio because the radio is kind of on the fly as we're going through it. So that's the time alignment. And then so you see the bottom left where it says the down arrow phone, down arrow amp. So once I've tuned it and I want to save those settings, I'm going to hit save to amp and I'm going to save it on one of the 5 different presets. So I'll save it on preset 1 and see it'll come up and say it's been saved. Now what else I would do is I would say save the phone, and this is where I would type John's Tacoma, for example, right? John's Tacoma, and this is where I would save it so that in the future, if John decides he wants to go and download the app and mess around with the settings and then comes back and he's like, man, my audio system sounds like crap. So then I would go back in, connect to the amplifier through the app, and I'll simply load his tune back into the amp using my setup and then just bring it back up to where it was. But ultimately, guys, that's the app. Again, you can mess around with it. If you have any questions, I think you know, let us know. So again, remember, we're giving away a DSP amp.
DVR.
Okay, a DVR. Sorry. So
It
we're giving
changed on
away
me.
a DVR. One of the dual channel ones.
Yeah, the Tigers.
Okay, cool. So guys, there is a 2-channel DVR that we're giving away. So thanks for plugging in. If you have any questions, any comments or concerns, remember we do this every third Thursday. Right? What day are we today? Thursday, John?
Yep.
I lost track, man. Since SEMA, I'm just. So we do this every third Thursday of every month, and so we're gonna continue to bring different solutions, different installs, different hands-ons. We're here to answer questions. Let us know if you guys, what you guys want to see next month, and we'll be more than happy to put it together. Now, keep in mind that when we do these kind of things, and we actually do installs on vehicles like this, the equipment stays in the trucks. Like as a company, we're giving away this equipment. We're not gonna undo it. It's gonna stay here. Same thing, that we did with the radio inside of this vehicle. So again, guys, this is us, investing time, effort, and funds to bring in these things out to you guys. So let us know what you guys want to see next month. Because if you don't tell us, then we'll come up with something ourselves. But the idea is we're here to provide you guys with hands-on information, tutorials, answer questions that you might have, so that you could, basically know and use our products in your day-to-day activities at the shop. Once again, guys, thank you guys for watching. I think that pretty much wraps it up. John, anything else? If you guys have any questions, let us know. But other than that, I think that wraps it up for today. Short and simple. T-harness install, DSP amplifiers. They're here, easy enough to use. And I think you guys will definitely enjoy using them. Thank you again.